walk away with something. I'll explain that in a second. So the chat box is open, and Kate will monitor that. I have all of my windows minimized, so I can't see who's on and who has the hands raised and so forth. So I will just defer to Kate as she monitors this. So thank you again for the opportunity. So the next two are November 13th. Leverage the two dimensions of time, Chronos and Kairos, one of my all-time favorite topics. And then the third one was moved. It was December 11th. It's now December 18th. This is about perspective. So those are the two upcoming free webinars.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea. And then, we may have to do some.
So as the Associate Provost for Continued Learning at NJIT, I oversee a business unit that is now 6 months old, the Learning and Development Initiative, the LDI. And the LDI really fills a tremendous gap in NJIT's portfolio for skills-based learning non-degree credentials. So the way I always like to talk about it is I start with why. If you're familiar with Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why, why do we do what we do? Well, because we connect people to the skills and knowledge they need to succeed. In a world of constant change, the acronym used to describe today's global marketplace is VUCA. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So people really need to be connected to the skills and knowledge they need to succeed on an ongoing basis. It's not like every other year. It's literally like monthly now because of the pace of change is so quick. So how do we do what we do? We provide skills-based learning non-degree credentials. NDCs are as they're officially called. And then what do we offer? Well, we offer things like this: events, webinars, workshops, courses, workforce development programs, and custom training. We go out into the community and we're doing training for government agencies and offices, corporations, small and medium-sized businesses, nonprofit organizations. If you're in need of some custom training, let me know. You can visit our website, ldi.njit.edu, for a list of all of our upcoming events. Like for tomorrow, we have a big event with the Department of Labor on campus in the Agile Strategy Lab, AI in the life sciences. We've got people from Bausch & Lomb and other critical life science companies coming to talk about the impact of AI. So the LDI is up and running. We are most appreciative and grateful for our dear colleagues like Kate, who have opened their arms and said, hey, let's partner together. And this is a result of that collaboration. So thank you. So all of my workshops really surround one concept, which is self-awareness. I firmly believe, and have been throughout all my books. I just submitted my 9th book to my publisher. It's around achieving productivity, 24 essential skills for high performing teams. And I've been a real firm believer over the last 12 years of my research that if you want to grow as a professional, you have to grow as a person. And if there's one constant that I have seen, it's that people that don't move up in their careers or can't get out of a dead-end job or can't leave just a terrible boss situation, oftentimes there's a disconnect between their ability to grow personally and their inability to grow professionally. So a lot of what I do is around that intersection of personal and professional development. You can take 101 courses on all kinds of professional development skills and likewise with personal development, but seldom do you see the connections between the two. And that's what I focus in on. So again, have pen and paper. I'm going to rattle off 14 questions for you. We'll talk about each one. And then, like I said, there's an exercise. You can ask questions in chat during it or at the end. I always do highlight that sometimes my topics could be a bit uncomfortable. It may challenge you to leave your comfort zone. I'm a big believer of the quote or belief, everything you ever wanted is on the other side of hard. And just getting too hard and past it is extremely challenging for most humans. But you're never going to grow unless you're out of your comfort zone. So you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. For third time, have pen and paper for those who joined late. I also want to admit that I understand that what I'm asking you to do is really to work hard at hard work. You have families, you may have children, you may have parents you're taking care of, others, siblings or family members. You may have a demanding job, a demanding boss, a long commute, whatever it is that you're dealing with. And then when you sit in on a presentation or a workshop with me, um, I have added this in really just to help everyone understand that I know what I'm asking you to do is hard work. And more importantly, I'm asking you to work hard at the hard work required to increase your self awareness so that you can really thrive both personally and professionally. I didn't put any data in here from Gallup that a majority of Americans are not thriving. The majority of Americans are surviving. It has nothing to do with politics. It's just life in general. And you extrapolate that around the world, and the majority of humans they're just surviving. They're not thriving. And I hope in some small way, in some minuscule way, that my talks, help people understand, oh, this is how I can perhaps thrive a little bit more than maybe I have been doing. So I understand that what I'm asking you to do is to work hard at hard work. So, and be that as it may, but I also think that you can handle it. So, just another warning, there are some sensitive topics whenever I talk about mental health. I do want to just stress that some of the topics may be a little bit uncomfortable, and don't go too deep down the rabbit hole in this one. Some other presentations I do, but just as a kind of a FYI, some of these are sensitive topics. So at the end of this presentation, my goal is to have each of you write your own personal observation. Now, I'm going to guide you through a process, and that's why I need you to have paper. So an example is I adapt when faced with unexpected challenges, and doing so also helps me recover from setbacks. I adapt. So I think that's really critical is you understand that this is your personal observation. You're talking to yourself about yourself. Now, I talk to myself all the time. Sometimes I'm the only one that's going to listen. So I'm kind of comfortable doing this. What you're going to do is kind of write down how you feel about yourself, but I'm going to guide you through this process. So please understand that this is a process here, and we'll go through it. We're going to talk about two women because the title of this subtitle is The Champion's Journey. And you may know one, you probably don't know the other. The woman on the left is Jemimine Montag, an Australian race walker. And the woman on the right is Simone Biles, right? Arguably one of the greatest gymnasts, if not the greatest gymnast ever. And their shared experiences provide a lot of lessons from us. And so in my prior talks and in the upcoming ones, I kind of focus in on a topic. Like the next one is leveraging the two dimensions of time. And all I do is look at time, the concept of time and its dimensions. This is a little bit different because I'm going to ask you 14 questions with examples from both of their lives. And you're going to reflect on how you answer each one of those. And then, again, guiding you through a whole process. So Jemimine Montag, Australian race walker, two-time Olympic bronze medalist. She was the first Australian woman in 5 decades to win 2 medals in track and field in the past 2024 Paris Olympics. So she's known for balancing the pressure of competition with gratitude. She's been at this a long time. She's an advocate for self-belief, separating self-worth from outcomes, and this is critical for today's discussion. Separating self-worth from outcomes, we're going to look at that specifically, and really emphasizes the importance of community and inspires young women to pursue their own paths. And she gave a post-race interview at the Summer Olympics, and it went viral. And one of my favorite things to do is I go on LinkedIn and I literally I try to connect with people that I'm not connected with. And Jemimine Montag has a LinkedIn profile. And She just accepted my invitation. It's like, ooh, I'm so excited. I messaged her, but don't know if I'll get a message back. But we are connected, and she's an amazing woman, amazing human being. And this video, and I think I can share it because I was prepping with Kate, and this went viral from this past summer. And it's very short, and we're going to really tear apart her message because it's not a new message for her. She's been talking about these themes for quite some time. So, Kate, if you can't hear this, I'll stop it and move on. So please let me know if you can't hear it. So here is Jemima after she just won a bronze medal.
Jemima Montag, you are an Olympic bronze medalist. How does that sound?
That's crazy. I had a lot of belief. I had a good feeling this last week. I felt significantly more pressure this year because in Tokyo there were no spectators. Today there were about 30 family in Team Gem t-shirts yelling my name. And you want to do well for them because you know how excited they'll be. You want to show gratitude for the 15-year journey this has taken since Little Athletics. But it's a careful balance of wanting that medal but not needing it. It's really a nuanced difference. So not needing it for your own self-worth or feeling that people love you, but wanting it, saying like I'm willing to give this a crack and be tough, and if it doesn't happen the sun will rise tomorrow, but let's give it a go.
There would be so many young girls watching you right now back in Australia, possibly igniting their Olympic dream. What is your message to those young girls?
Play on is my message. I want them to know that this journey isn't without its challenges, particularly around the age of 16 and 17. I certainly questioned my place on the sporting field and whether I wanted to take it to this Olympic level. But the message is, it doesn't matter if you're doing sport for fun in your backyard with your girlfriends or whether you want to take it to this Olympic medalist level. Sport is about community and a sense of belonging, making friends, looking after our physical and mental health, learning amazing life skills like dedication and leadership, which are all such great things for the next generation of women and girls. So play on in your own way, whatever suits you. And we belong here.
So really powerful messages there. We're going to break it down a little bit. And then the other woman here, the other champion is Simone Biles. Again, you're probably more familiar with her, 10 total Olympic medals, 25 world championships, but she really sparked a lot of controversy, and it's not a fair word, but it's kind of the label that was placed on it when she withdrew from the 21 Tokyo Olympics, citing mental health reasons. And we're going to look at that very closely here. Huge mental health proponent. And I would encourage you to watch the Netflix documentary, Simone Biles Rising. I watched it, and just amazing insight to what it means to be a world champion and the battles internally and externally she had to deal with. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing. I got to shut it off. This came out, I think, back in July. I would highly recommend it, and it really gives you insight. I think it's 2 or 3 parts for Simone's background, and she's very vulnerable in this. And as a result of that vulnerability, you get tremendous insight. And again, we're going to examine this a little bit more closely. So I'm going to walk you through 14 questions and 14 characteristics that I want you to look at yourself. So the very first one is belief in oneself leads to success. And the question is, how do you build self-confidence? And what's interesting is Montag is actually a grad. I believe she finished her master's degree in public health. So she's balancing the pursuit of an Olympic medal with graduate school. Right. So no easy task, whether you're doing one or the other, and forget both. It's really, really close to impossible. So what she did is she really took some time to figure out why she was doubting herself 6 years ago. So she spent a year working on her mental health. And this is her quote. Like, I'm trying to give you as much direct evidence as I can, that these are world-class athletes that are now really opening it up about the necessity, the absolute necessity of their mental health. So keep that in mind. Her quote is, I spent a year working on my confidence, building a high performance team of a new coach, sports psychologist, sports dietitian, and working out how to balance all of this training with the British or university, right? So, and I give you the reference here. So, first question is, how do you build self-confidence? Now, I think a sub question here is, how often do you even reflect upon your building of self-confidence? Like, there's one thing to ask, how do you build it? I think there's a whole other sub question, which is, do you even work on building your self-confidence? And again, as I've done these over the decades, and as I've gotten older, I have 2 grown adult children, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. Both of my parents have passed in the last 9 years. My mother 2 years ago. I understand the challenges of life, but I also understand the necessity of asking yourself all of these questions, because I believe that if you have answers to these questions, not only will you increase your self-awareness and grow as a professional because you're growing as a person, but you're better equipping yourself to really deal with the life situations that are coming your way, because they're coming, whether we like them or not. So that's the first question. Now, how often do you build self-confidence? Second one is balancing pressure with gratitude. And Montag does a lot of gratitude journaling. And if you listen to colleagues, right, sometimes they're not grateful at all. So how often do you express gratitude in tough moments? Right? That's hard to do when things aren't going well. Are you grateful at all? And Montag uses gratitude journaling really to remind herself of the journey that she's on. Not so much the destination, but the journey. So how often do you balance pressure with gratitude? Maybe you don't think about this. Again, that's keen insight for you to pay attention to. And how often do you express gratitude in tough moments? Or do you get so caught up, like something's going on at work and you take it out on a colleague and then you have to apologize? I've often said, if you had the self-awareness, right, and the mental wherewithal or toughness, you'd never need to apologize because you would have handled it right the first time. Now, we're not perfect. I make mistakes. I make 100 mistakes a day. But the key is if you're aware of it, you can work on it, right? I teach oral presentation Tuesday nights at NJIT. So I have 22 undergrads. And there's 10 elements of oral presentations I have to work on. And one of my students last night said, hey, what can I work on for next? And everyone gets the same message. You only have to work on one thing. If you work on one thing over the course of 10 weeks, you've worked on 10 things. And this particular student touched his face too many times when he was talking. He was nervous. I said, I don't care about anything else next week except just don't touch your face. Work on one thing. Be grateful that you got through the pressure situation of speaking in front of your classmates, but now work on it, right? So, and they're learning to be grateful for the journey. Don't focus in on the destination so much. So second question here, how do you express gratitude in tough moments? Third one is, do you define yourself by results? And this is a tough one, right? We are sadly a materialistic world. The size of our house, the model of our car, if you got a phone, a computer, a watch, whatever, you have a title, a salary, these things are like uber important, right? We have to define ourselves by results. But as Montag said in that interview, the sun still comes up if you don't get the result you're looking for. So can you parse apart? Can you identify and clarify that nuance of, I'm pursuing something, but my self-worth isn't tied to that? that exemplifies the work hard and hard work. I know how hard that is. I understand. I'm a first generation college graduate. No one in my family went to college. I was the only one, and therefore the only one that got a master's and then a PhD. I was defining. I understood, and it actually drove me to finish the PhD because I was not going to finish. Now I was young and had a lot of energy. I don't know if I would have started that today. I have a different view of life. So it's just something to ask yourself. And if you have children, then what are you teaching them? Are you teaching them to be defined by only their results? It's a very dangerous precedent, I think, to set. I see this in my students. I see the results of when parents tell their, children, some students have said, yeah, my mom said I can't weigh more than X number of pounds, which I was horrified with. Some students are like, yeah, if I don't get a 4.0, my dad won't pay my tuition. Like there's all these horror stories out there. And it's frightening because the parent has taught the student, their child, your self-worth is only tied to your outcomes or results. It's tragically sad. And as a parent, I never did that. I think it's really important. Montag, interestingly enough, because of her public health master's degree, is an ambassador for Human and Hope Australia. She does a lot of work in the public health arena, and that's just from her LinkedIn profile. The next one is success is about personal growth, not others' expectations. This is tied to the last one. How do you set your own limits? One of the hardest things to do, right, is to live a life free of others' expectations. Again, very hard to do. This is why I always put a trigger warning, because some people don't want to ask themselves these questions. I mean, people have walked out of my workshops because they're like, no, this isn't for me. But I understand that. I get it. But for those that are interested, I say, let's have at it. So how do you set your own limits? And there's a great saying that it's an old adage. It's been attributed to all kinds of countries. But someone else has their mic on, I think, maybe Patrick. Montag believes in the age-old adage of, I'm really only concerned about being better than my previous self. Am I 1% better than I was last time? And as an athlete, that can really help you focus in on yourself and not our competitors. So that's thus the next question is, how do you set your own limits? Are you doing it, or are you living by someone else's expectations? That you got to be very careful of. And then resilience helps you bounce back. So she failed to qualify for a world championship in 2019. She reflected on it and learned from it. And this is actually her LinkedIn post following that interview that I showed you. She said, it's been amazing to feel the worldwide reach of my post-Olympic interview. As many of you pointed out, I have done years of work on self-awareness and understanding the mind to get to this point, right? I must also give a huge shout out to the clinical psychologists and mental skills coaches. Now, just think of what that means. Here we have a young woman, an Olympic champion, a world champion, who has publicly stated, yeah, resilience helped me helped me bounce back. And I recovered from my setbacks because of it. And I put in the hard work to do it. It's really powerful to hear such, critically acclaimed people talk about mental health openly and really highlight it really was a catalyst for their success. So now we're going to look at Simone for a little bit. And again, the whole point of this is for you to answer your 14 questions, right? So, as previously stated, it's the subject of the Netflix docuseries. Simone Biles redefined success when she dropped out of Tokyo. Remember, it was during the pandemic. There were no fans. And she, I thought, was so unfairly criticized on social media. And social media is a disaster anyway when it comes to these types of things. But as Simone said in her own words, I never thought I was going to be competing again after Tokyo. I had to fight demons day in and day out in training. I really had to prove to myself that I can do this. I get to write my own ending, and here she is falling on a vault in Tokyo. So she had to ask herself, all right, how am I defining success beyond achievements? You know, success includes well-being, not just wins. And she's had, I think, 3 or 4 jumps, routines in gymnastics on various competitions within gymnastics named for her. Like, if you've got a routine or a move named after you, I think you're pretty much an expert in that field. And for that world champion, expert, right, Olympic medalist, gold medalist, illustrate that success includes well-being, not just wins. It was a turning point. And just this past week, more research came out, and I'm going to end with it. Because this really was a turning point, I think, in Olympic history when this happened. So the next question is, are you prioritizing your mental health? No, you don't have to talk about that publicly. You can just answer it yourself. Mental health comes before external expectations. As Simone, in her own words, said, I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. And there are some people, you maybe you've heard them, who have said, you're not supposed to enjoy it. You're supposed to go win. Okay, I mean, if that's your life and that's your set of values, it's not mine. I think you should enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. I think you can have fun and succeed as well. There's plenty of models of that. And some people criticized her because she did put her mental health first before the Olympic medals. Again, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but as Simone, if you watch the docuseries and if you read enough of her, she would say that she's moving her body up in the air, on bars, on rings, whatever the case is, on the floor, bouncing up and down. She's going to kill herself if she's not mentally focused. So I never really understood the unfair criticism. So the next question that I want you to write down and answer is, are you prioritizing your mental health? And again, if the answer is no, then that's a whole other conversation. If it's yes, good for you. I think that's extremely important. So self-awareness is key to long-term success. I've already said this, right? She had the twisties. And in baseball, if you understand, like if you know what baseball is, there's something called the yips. The yips are when the pitcher completely loses any kind of muscle memory related to throwing a baseball. And it's happened several times, some modern cases of it. And it's very scary because it's almost like your brain and your body are disconnected. So this is what happened to Simone. The yips are called yips in baseball, and the twisties are the twisties in gymnastics. And she said, I just felt like it would be a little bit better to take a back seat to work on my mindfulness. I knew that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal because they worked way too hard for that. I was still struggling with some things. No injury, thankfully. That's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. Right. And in terms of, we didn't even talk about this here, but, you know, the girls on the team really rallied around her and they understood. Right. And so this really is a turning point when Simone does this. So can you recognize when you need a break? You might need a break during the middle of a crazy day. I always tell people, if you don't have your own office, or if it's just go into the bathroom for 10 minutes and just like catch your breath. Or go outside, go in your car for a minute. Prioritize mental health. I do it all the time. You know, I got phone calls and texts and Teams chats and Google chats and emails. It's like, oh my God, like time out, everybody. I'll be back in 10. Right? Do you need a break? I'm not going to hurt myself. She could potentially hurt herself. I also want to talk a little bit about, I have a whole presentation on this. Stress plus rest equals progress. Rest is a powerful tool for success. She rests all the time. And if you look at any world-class athletes, I ran for 25 years and did triathlons for a while. You really, when you study these world-class athletes, they all build rest in. This nonsense of working 24/7, 90-hour, 120-hour weeks. There's not one bit of research that says if you work 120 hours a week, you're more productive than someone that works 40. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. In fact, like 30 hours is like the maximum number of hours that you can really get out of a person in a given week, right? And if you're an athlete, you got to really be careful. So how often do you incorporate rest into your routine? How often do you incorporate rest in your routine? Now, some people are martyrs. I know. I've worked with plenty of martyrs. I was up all night. I had to work all weekend. And the older I've gotten, and I'm like, well, yeah, but that's because you're poorly organized, or you don't say no to an assignment, or you can't have the difficult conversation, or you're not prioritizing self-care. No one on my team is allowed to work more than the required hours. Unless there's a major emergency, I'm not bothering you at night or on the weekends. It's uncalled for. Because the more restful they are, the more productive they are when they get back at it. Athletes are the same way. But what's your relationship with rest? Do you even have a relationship with rest? Have you ever thought about your relationship with rest? It's a powerful tool for success. So how do you incorporate rest into your routine? Next one, vulnerability can lead to powerful leadership. So this whole docuseries that she was on demonstrates her vulnerability. I'm just very comfortable being vulnerable. Maybe it's as the older I get, I just don't care. But there are a lot of people, doesn't matter, men or women, it doesn't matter, who just refuse to be vulnerable because they see it as a sign of weakness. So again, that's something you have to ask yourself is, what is your relationship with vulnerability? And if you're not comfortable being vulnerable, why is that? Like, that's probably something that's worth looking at internally, right? I think it's very important. So how can you share vulnerability to connect with others? So now we're going to take a look at a few questions, because we're getting to the point where I want you to, you're going to do the exercise here, and then you're going to walk away with a personal statement. And if you're comfortable, I'd like you to, to share some of these. So we talked about resilience, but here we're going to just put a tweak to it. And that is, resilience is adapting to change. Both Montag and Biles adapted their training during the pandemic, stayed resilient, adjusted their routines, and figured out a way to keep moving forward. So how do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? One of my favorite sayings, you hear me say this a lot, so I got a lot of favorite sayings. One of my favorite sayings is, don't let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do. Don't let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do. If you listen to people, because my staff knows they're never allowed to say what they can't do. They have to focus in on what they can do. We can't do this, and I can't believe we're not allowed to do that, and they won't let me do this. You'll never get anywhere in life, because your focus is on the can't. And we all have limited energy, so spend your energy on what you can do. What can you do right now? And if you can't figure that out, I think it's going to be a challenging career. It's just critically important that you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges. And look, we live in the world of AI, artificial intelligence. Tomorrow's talk with the Department of Labor, Bausch & Lomb, and some other science companies on campus is all about the changing world of life sciences, where AI is taking, this industry. And AI is right, is more than just ChatGPT. It's way more than that. So you live in a world, you're going to have a job. I always tell my students, young people, you're going to have a job that doesn't yet exist, using technologies that haven't been created to solve problems that haven't been identified. So how can you possibly know what the hell you want to do the rest of your life? That's the worst question. My students are never allowed to be asked that question or answer that question. If they do, I usually wind up talking to the parents, because that's unacceptable. No one knows the future, especially the types of jobs that are going to exist. So what you want to do is train people to be adaptable, to have an agile mindset, a growth mindset, to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, to work through positive uncertainty, right? To understand that unexpected challenges are coming, So be prepared mentally for them, right? Be resilient in all aspects, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally. That's what's going to help you succeed both professionally and personally, right? So how do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? And again, how often do you examine how you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? Balance passion with maintaining health. Both, women manage their passion for sports by ensuring they balance it with self-care and mental well-being. And I like the stone, the Cairn, the balance of the stones here. Are you balancing your drive with well-being? I stopped running probably 10 years ago when I ran for 25 years. And I stepped foot into a yoga shala, not knowing anything about yoga, literally nothing. I just thought yoga was yoga. I didn't know anything. I started studying Ashtanga and then Yin and Vinyasa. And over time, I became a certified yoga instructor. And I've been really examining this concept of how do you balance drive or ambition with your well-being. I don't have an answer yet, but I know I examine it all the time, And I'm working through it now. I'm writing. There might be an article or a book in the future. But are you balancing drive with your well-being? My answer is yes, I am doing that. Am I 100%? No, some days I'm probably out of sync and balanced, but I am aware of it. I am aware that I am ambitious and I have drive, but I also maintain good mental health and physical health. I work out every morning. It's the first thing I do. 5:30 to 6:30, 6 to 7 a.m., I'm working out. Start my day trying to help myself for what's to come. It's my responsibility. No one else is going to do it for me. I have to do it. So are you balancing your drive with well-being? The journey matters as much as the outcome, right? As we talked about before, we are an outcomes-focused world. And it's really quite sad. But both Montag and Biles talk about it's not just the medals. It's just not the medals. There's 1,000 little victories along the way. How do you stay present on your journey? And there are people, they find no joy in the day. They find no simple joys along the way because all they care about is the outcome. How much money am I making this month? What's my bonus? What's my raise? What size, house can I get? What make and model car am I going to get? They're just not concerned about the journey. They don't build relationships. They don't collaborate. They're extremely self-centered and egotistical because all they care about is the outcome. And I think there's been enough philosophers throughout world history that remind us that it's more about the journey and not the outcome. Because happiness is a choice. At the end of the day, happiness is a choice, and you choose not to be happy. I can't help you be happy. It's just a choice. So this just came out on, I think I found this on Instagram, the Female Quotient's account. It's a good one. It's got a lot of good research for women. So a new study was released that found that Simone Biles inspired over 60% of women to prioritize their mental health. She moved forward by taking a step back and showed other women that it's completely okay. I hope that she is remembered more for that than all of her medals and championships combined. Because she really did write a new chapter in mental health history when she did that. She took a beating publicly, and she talks about it in the docuseries. And her journey back was really probably one of the most remarkable journeys in modern history. And I thought when I saw that, literally saw it the other day on Instagram, I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. I'm going to throw this in at the end of the presentation. So the impact, she's had the impact that it's reverberating, right? It's echoing with each passing year that she did that over the last 4 years. So it's really interesting to see the ripple effect of her decision to step back and then her other decision to then re-enter the journey again and become a world champion after overcoming so many mental hurdles along the way. So these are the 14 questions. How do you build self-confidence? How do you express gratitude in tough moments? Do you define yourself by results? How do you set your own limits? How do you recover from setbacks? Are you prioritizing your mental health? Can you recognize when you need a break? And then do you give yourself a break? How do you define success beyond achievements? How do you balance long-term goals with immediate needs? How do you incorporate rest into your routine? How can you share vulnerability to connect with others, or do you never share vulnerability with others? How do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? Are you balancing your drive with your well-being? And then how do you stay present on your journey? So you're going to select your top 5. I'll walk you through my exercise. I'll demonstrate some vulnerability here. I will give you insight into mine. I'll give you a minute so that you can select your top 5. Okay. So then these are my top 5, and I grade out the others in case you need it as a reference. How do you recover from setbacks? Are you prioritizing your mental health? Can you recognize when you need a break? How can you share vulnerability to connect with others? How do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? Remember, you're just really focused in on the questions that they just resonate with you. Don't make this so hard. What are the 5 that resonate with you the most? It's all we're going for here. Don't overthink it. So when I was putting this together, I mean, they all resonate with me, but the top 5, okay, I want to choose these 5. So you got your 5. Now you're going to do your 2. Now you're going to whittle it down to 2, right? So my 2 that really resonate. How do you recover from setbacks? How do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? Don't need to put 1 and 2. That's not the point of this exercise. How do you recover from setbacks? How do you adapt when faced with unexpected challenges? They're my top 2. What are your top 2? Hopefully you circled them or you penciled in, whatever the case is. And then you're going to write yourself a sentence. Remember, you saw this. This was one of my first slides, right? This is my personal observation. This is my diary entry, if you will, for today. I adapt when faced with unexpected challenges, and doing so also helps me recover from setbacks. I adapt. You say it out loud to yourself so that yourself can hear yourself. I adapt when faced with unexpected challenges, and doing so also helps me recover from setbacks. I adapt. I mean, I know we've got a few minutes left here, and we can get into questions and so forth, but would anyone like to share their observation? And I'll give you, there's my email address, by the way, and we'll get back to the observation in a second. It's michael.edmondson@njit.edu. Again, happy to talk to anyone. We've had 5 of these workshops, and invariably someone wants to talk to me about a topic that we've covered. More than happy to support you along your life journey. So please email me anytime, that you would like to talk. Happy to help you anytime. So let's just go back here. So if you feel like sharing your personal observation, great. If not, it's perfectly fine. It is your observation. I'm hoping that you write it down and you look at it later today, maybe tomorrow, and you just really remind yourself. I mean, this does 3 things, an exercise like this, right? The obvious is it increases your self-awareness. But it does 2 other things that I don't think we do enough of. One is it allows us to find our voice. I do a lot of this work in my oral presentation class. I told them I get 14 weeks to help you find your voice. And whether you're 18 or 26, and sometimes I have someone that's going back to school in their 40s in the class, I want you to find your voice. And we don't do that. We don't help each other find each other's voice, right? And we don't listen to hear. We listen to respond, because we got to say something. Someone's talking to us. We got to respond. Okay, calm down. I've done a lot of hard work over the last 10 years on listening better. And I always tell my students, if you want to be a better speaker, be a better listener first. So this not only does it increase your self-awareness, it helps you hear your voice, helps you define your voice, right? And the third thing it does, which we certainly do not do enough of, especially in today's just brutally divided world, is we're not kind enough to ourselves. We're just not kind enough. I know I'm not. I'm still working on that. But when you say these things to yourself, you're like, oh, that's actually a kind thing to say to me, Michael. Thank you for saying that to me. I adapt when faced with unexpected challenges, and doing so also helps me recover from setbacks. I adapt. That's very kind of you to say to me, Michael. Thank you. Like, how often are you kind to yourself? Right. So I do hope like this exercise was helpful. We're going to get to the chat now. Got a few minutes left. Get to some questions. Kate, you're still there. Hopefully we're still connected. I never know because I can't see anybody. The whole, everyone could have signed off. Hopefully someone is still there.
Yep, we are still here. So if folks want to make any comments, you can feel free to unmute yourself. If you're not comfortable speaking, you can put your comments in the chat and I can relay them to Dr. Edmond.
Oh, thanks, Kate. You put all 14 in there. Oh, that was a smart thing. Thank you. I appreciate that. There you
Really,
go.
hi, my name is Sirit, and I've been through. I think you've held a few workshops in the past, and I'm really appreciative of all the insights that you continue to give us. So very
Thank you, Sirat. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
I wanted to share after the 14 questions you shared, and then the two.
Sure.
I wanted to share, I think, my personal, I guess, statement,
Oh, thank you.
which was, I'm thankful for the journey that I'm on so far, and especially for the challenges and the setbacks and the failures, as they are opportunities to better myself. And I'll continue to work to not attaching my self-worth to outcome. And
There you go. Yeah.
I really loved that. That really resonated with me.
Oh, that's great. You should be really proud of yourself. That's good. It's good work. That's hard work you did there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Josephine, your hand is up. How are you doing?
Having a sunny day.
There you go. That's good.
So, I took the question, how do you incorporate rest into your routine? I follow a number of spiritual teachers, I'll call it that, and one of them talks about balancing activity and repose, which is similar to
Yes.
what you're basically saying.
Sure.
So some of the actual things I do, because the question is, how do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't make any appointments until noontime.
Good.
So I keep my mornings unless it's an emergency or can't be scheduled any other time. Because
Sure.
I like being productive in the morning, uninterrupted, right?
Sure.
I check in with myself. How am I feeling? On a regular basis. And I also ask myself questions like, what do I feel like doing next? And maybe I feel like, I had a back injury a few months ago. Maybe I feel like lying down for half an hour.
Sure.
So that's one. And the other about sharing your vulnerability, which is like an ongoing project, right? So, but a couple years ago, I learned to say, and I think this is really confusing to some people. I say, I'm willing to be wrong about this, right? Because I'm not trying to be the highest achiever in the room.
Right. So that's a sign of vulnerability, right? You're admitting that I could be wrong here. I don't need to be right. Like that's really what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't need to be right about this, and I have something to say. Sometimes it's like a trial balloon.
Sure.
admit when things don't go so well, share, ask for feedback. If I'm in a group setting, I might say, well, our meeting this happened last night. Our meeting ran 15 minutes over and I was like the timekeeper. So
Right.
how can I do a better job of keeping our meeting on track like that?
Sure.
Ask
Sure.
people to give you feedback. It's rare.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Josephine. Thank you for sharing. And I see Ralph added in the chat. I express gratitude in tough moments, which helps me adapt when faced with unexpected challenges. There's your 2 questions. I like how you merged it. So you're very welcome, Ralph, and thank you, everyone. Kate, any other thoughts, questions, observations?
Looking in the chat, I don't see anything else.
Okay.
Yeah. If anyone else wants to speak up.
Any other questions or thoughts? You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you for going through this exercise. You have the 14 questions now. And Kate, I guess this is available for others to view.
Yep.
So,
thank you for joining us, everyone. I will have this on our YouTube channel and I will email that to all you folks. And I hope you found this session useful, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on Wednesday, November 13th at noon. And again, thank you, Dr. Edmondson, for your time and your expertise.
thank you, Kate. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye now.